Welcome to Unleash the Beast, a podcast about mental health and mental well-being. Today, Gregg is having a catch-up with Bianca Daniel and Margaret Maloney. Bianca, her philosophy in life is summed up in 4 words: eat, sleep, conquer and repeat. Margie has learned how to push through barriers and faces up to challenges both in life and in competition. We know you'll be enthralled about this conversation, developing mental resilience and strong mental well-being.
So as we start today, we just want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're recording this podcast and those all across Australia who have taken care of and been custodians of the land for thousands of generations. And we pay respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And I also pay respects to our guests today, some amazing people. We've got Margie right here, and we've also got Bianca. And I'm going to get these guys to introduce themselves very briefly, and we'll start with you, Bianca. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm 29 years old. I was born in Toowoomba. My parents moved out to Kingsthorpe, which is about 20 minutes west of Toowoomba. I grew up there, went to school there. Once I went to high school here, Harristown High, represent. Then we, got a job.
Eagles.
Got a job and then, moved into Toowoomba, to do that, to work. And then, basically sort of moved into my sport from there. And, once I settled into adult life and, started to enjoy that. So that's basically me in a nutshell.
That's you in a nutshell. That's you in a stuck in a nutshell. Now we're going to get a little bit more into your sporting career and your lifting prowess. So we'll get to that in a second. And those who get a chance to watch the video that we're recording here are going to realise that, and I'm sure that's been said before, you're reasonably short in stature. But you're probably able to lift me about 4 times over. So we're going to get onto that in a moment. But also now, Margie, introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about yourself and where you've come from as well, please.
I'm a New South Wales lady, hence the Blues supporter. Moved to Toowoomba some years ago. Unlike Bianca, I'm probably a third of her size, but 3 times her age. So I moved to Toowoomba some years ago and commenced working in St Vincent's and then moved to the base in the emergency department, which I am there today. I took up running because I enjoyed the outside sports and I also had a dad who enjoyed jogging in his terms. So at 62, I'm still running and loving marathon life and working in the emergency department.
So what we've got here is today, obviously, we've got 2 people who are sports fanatics, people who love fitness, and it's a big part of your life. But we're also talking today about this idea of developing mental resilience and a strong sense of mental well-being. And I guess I want to kick it off by saying that both of you already have a lot going on in life. We've got someone who's working in emergency. It's a full-time job. It's full-time, isn't it, Marg?
I'm part-time.
Part-time, but still, it's pretty hardcore type of work that you've got going on. And of course, a business owner and also a sporting person. There's a lot happening in life. The question that I have is the 2 of you each having achieved really high standards within your own sporting field. Marg having completed every major marathon except for Berlin. Except for Berlin. Thanks to COVID. Yeah. But also yourself having reached the heights of lifting. It's pretty amazing. But how is it that you both manage all the competing interests and commitments that you have in life? How do you manage all that stuff? Because surely it's got to get stressful and pretty full on at times.
For me, definitely preparation, with the small things in particular, like I'm talking getting your clothes out ready for the next day, making sure, your food's packed, ready to go. Because obviously, as an athlete, nutrition is format. It's important, if you don't eat well, you don't perform well. So making sure all that's sorted. I have a diary. I'm a visual person. So I have a diary on the kitchen bench or table, and everything that I'm doing for that week is written down. It doesn't only help me, but helps my husband to know what I'm doing when I'm going to be home, when I'm not going to be home, when he needs to have stuff
Have you
done.
always been a planned person? Have you always been a diary writer?
Not always. I guess when I started sort of working and trying to fit in my sporting stuff, just having a visual of what's going on and what, you know, when things are happening, for me just helps. Like I brush past it, you know, 50 times a day. Just double check that, this is what I need to do. Okay, I got 20 minutes before that happens. So for me, preparation is key. If I'm not prepared, I'm stressed. And when I'm stressed, I don't perform well. And when I'm stressed, my clients see that I'm stressed and I don't give 100% with my work either. So I need to be prepared.
So
100%.
one of the things that helps you to manage your own mental health and to I guess, you know, regulate your own emotions and all that kind of gear is actually to know what's going on and when it's to have that plan, everything set up. That's really the one of the key foundational principles that you need to do in life.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Sure.
Is that the same for you, Margie?
Very similar. I probably don't have the the students that Bianca has, nor her personal business and her business owner. But I think I have probably the opposite in respect to if I don't do it, don't stress, because there's always tomorrow. You can't go back. What you've missed is you've missed, and move on to tomorrow's program. But I do have a program. I purchase a program and I do have a trainer, and I probably will always be a good student regardless of the race.
See, I find that really interesting. So you actually have a trainer that you pay to help you get everything sorted and know what you're doing and when. Is that the way it works?
Yeah.
Is that person a sports trainer only, or are they more like a life coach as well?
No, they're a sports trainer and a physiotherapist in New York, so it's online.
Right. Well, and what really stands out to me for that, for both of you, interestingly, is that there's this idea that actually I've got to put time in. I've got to actually put some money in, some effort in to getting planned and having knowing where I'm going and having a direction. And without having that sense of what's going on, it actually can cause a lot of stress and anxiety without knowing that. Even though there's very different philosophies in terms of the way that you approach what you do, your different personalities, it still comes back to that core principle that actually I just need to have some kind of plan. I need to know kind of what's happening a little bit, and then I can, it just makes me feel better. That sounds about right, at least anyway, from what I heard.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Tell us more about your philosophy.
My eat, sleep, train, repeat.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I love it. If you go looking at Bianca's Facebook page, then she's got this philosophy, 4 words. It's eat, sleep,
Conquer, repeat. That was
conquer,
it. Yeah.
repeat.
Yeah.
Eat, sleep, conquer, repeat. And I thought that's just brilliant. Eat, sleep, conquer, repeat. And that probably sums up your personality and your approach to life, yes?
Yeah, I mean, eat's number one, obviously. Us powerlifters like our food. So, I mean, that's what fuels our workouts as well, but as an athlete too. But, eating and sleeping, if we don't get those right, it's hard to conquer anything, whether it's work, training, relationships, all that kind of stuff. Like for me, eating and sleeping is really important, particularly with my line of work as well. I can't be tired. I can't, be undernourished. Otherwise, I don't have the energy to be able to give to my clients. And if I don't have the energy to give to my clients, then that, that shows to them that, well, for me, I think it's, it's something that they look to me for. Like I'm a person who is always bubbly, is always upbeat. And when I'm not bubbly, I'm not upbeat, that's when someone asks me, are you okay? And, it's something that's just important to me that works well. And I just gonna make sure I eat, I sleep, and usually everything else follows nicely. And if it doesn't, then that's okay because I ate and I slept and everything else.
Now, for those that are playing along at home, they might not have a grasp on what your job is, and also what your chosen field of sport is as well. So help people understand what you've done and what you've achieved.
Yeah, so I'm a competitive powerlifter. I started that 2 years ago. Previously to that, I was an Olympic weightlifter, more of a junior lifter. I made it to Junior Commonwealth Games over in Pune, India in 2008, I think I said to you, Margie, earlier. Had to draw that from the back of the memory. Made it through sort of, that was the sort of pinnacle of my Olympic lifting. And then, I kind of had to become an adult and work hard, and we saved up for a house deposit and bought our house. So sport kind of went on the back burner a bit there. I was working a lot, working most weekends, would get every second weekend off, wondering why I didn't have a social life. Then we kind of settled into that, and I needed something else. So I've always been in some form of competitive sport. So hence why I'm in powerlifting now. 2 years ago with that, thanks to COVID, once again, we didn't get to make nationals last year, but this year is looking to be the year for nationals. Looking to move towards that and hopefully break a couple of world records there, which would be nice, icing on the cake.
I like the fact that you're setting small goals. That's good, I'm just checking.
We've made the state and the national records, so the next one's world records.
The next nut to crack is world records. Now, the thing about powerlifting, which quite frankly I have no idea about, I'm not a powerlifter, and I don't really know that there's a difference between weightlifting and powerlifting, and that's probably something that just shows my
honestly, most people don't.
Yeah,
so
it's just
okay.
naive to the whole thing. But what I'm sure of, having seen weightlifters and powerlifters do their thing on television and what have you, is that you've got to be strong for sure in your body. So you've got to train, you've got to be doing that kind of stuff. But I can imagine that it's not just about lifting up a bar and weights simply because your body can do it. There's also this idea that, well, actually, even just looking at that and saying, I know that weighs whatever, 100 kilos, 200 kilos. I know that weighs 200 kilos. That's a lot. You've got to get your mind in a space where that's even possible. Just how much does your mind game allow you to be able to lift?
Look, a lot. And I used to be really hard on myself, back in my sort of Olympic lifting days. And I kind of live by, I give everything. When I'm prepping, I give everything: nutrition, sleep, training. I turn up. I may not necessarily hit my weights on the day, but I move, and I still move through those movements that are on my program. And for me, if I can do that and I give everything and it doesn't turn out on the day, then I'm okay with that. It's when I start to, binge eat every weekend, or, decide to stay up until midnight and, only get 4 hours sleep. That's when I start to sort of not perform as well. And if I do that, if I decide to do that, then I can't turn around and say, well, why didn't I get that weight? You know what I mean? Because you made those decisions leading up to it. And over the years, I've come to kind of accept my decisions. I can turn around and say, well, you know what, Bianca, you decided to eat like a bit of a loser, or, you wanted to stay up and party. So you didn't get that weight, and you need to be okay with that. So it's taken a long while. It's taken a few years, but I'm slowly getting to a point now where I'm okay with whatever decision I make. So, when it comes to a preparation, obviously I don't eat like a loser, and I get enough sleep, or at least I try to. So when I come to comp day, and if I get the weight, awesome, that's epic. If I don't, then that's okay too, because I did everything I could to prepare myself for that.
So it feels to me like what you're saying is performance, or let's call it success if you want to put it that way, but hitting the goals or hitting the successes that you want is actually, it really comes back down to the preparation, and it's the day-to-day game.
There's that key word again, isn't it?
Preparation. It's every day. It's not just what happens on the day where you feel like, oh, I've got to do something now. It's actually it's all the little things.
It's the days, the months leading up to it.
It's all that foundational stuff. It's just the stuff that you do every day.
Yeah.
Mark, can I call you Mark?
Must butt in, Bianca, the staying up and sleep on 4 hours, working on 4 hours will change as you get older.
I have been told that. I don't have children yet, so
Very
it's
much.
changed a lot.
Sorry. Yeah, you can call me whatever you like.
Thanks. Well, Margie, I wonder, surely it's very similar for you with running marathons. Help us understand what it takes and how you cultivate a mentally, like that mental resilience that you need to be able to run marathons.
Well, I think it is similar, though there could be a few differences there, but it's similar in respect to that where you conquer and things like that. The program that a runner has is a little bit different because there's a few aspects of it like days off, cross-training and things like that. So to me the consistency is what's in a marathon program, regardless of the distance or whatever, is to turn up and to do your program. And as I said before, if you cannot do it on that day, don't stress out. I think once you first do your first marathon, it's quite an amazing goal and achievement. And then I think you just go on and then get hungry for faster and more marathons under your belt. But I think your 10th marathon is the same as the person doing her first marathon. You know, it's about doing a program, not just jumping in and thinking you can do this. Be kind to your body and be sensible. And as I said to you in our interview this morning, it's getting to the start line. That's the win.
See, now I really love that thought that you have there. And Margie, when you told me that actually the winning is not actually about getting across the line first, although that's the person that gets the prize, winning is actually getting even to the start line. Just getting there is a win, and then getting over is a win, and then continuing to win. I thought that was just such an incredible concept. Tell us a little bit more about that, because it almost feels like that is a bit of a philosophy, certainly for running for you. That's just the way that you approach your exercise and your fitness and your competition. But it almost feels like that's also a philosophy, and it's how you kind of do life. It seems like who you are.
Yeah, I suppose in all aspects. I suppose to get to the start line, you have to be prepared and followed your program and done when it's done. Okay, you can get an injury regardless of doing all that, but to get to the start line has been your goal, is to do this marathon. So if you don't go to the start line, you're not going to do the marathon. So it really is to get there and to enjoy it. You know, when it gets tough, of course it's going to get tough. You know it's going to get tough. I have a dear friend in Toowoomba that says right foot, left foot. Yeah, that's what you think about, right foot, left foot when it gets tough. But I suppose you don't think about the finish line until sort of fairly well into it. So it's to just enjoy it. You can get a bit head up with it and get a bit sort of stressed about it all, but that just deletes you're enjoying it. And I think that's one of the main things, yeah. And with the mental health, it's 80 to 90% mental health, 10's your legs. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right, so it's all about the mind game.
Yep.
So how often have you been, halfway through, quarter way through the marathon, or any half marathon, whatever the case might be, and you've found yourself you've lost your mental game, and what do you have to do to pull that back?
I think you just have to think about your training, put trust in yourself, your training, and start to look around and see your environment and see other people and say, well, it is hard for them. And then you'd get a mantra, of course, for your marathons, but another one is that you just pick off people in front of you. And that keeps your mind going.
We've got a hunter over here. Yeah. She's just picking people off and taking them down.
Rather than thinking, oh, my God, this is so hard and so tough, I think, well, I'm going to get that person and then I'll get the next person. And,
so there's an imaginary target on people's back, and I'm just gonna take them down. Yeah. That's right, and like a cheetah down the savannah.
Also have the attitude that it's not bad to walk.
Right.
That's really hard for a runner to say, but after doing a marathon in Chicago, I did a walk-run marathon because I had an injury. but I really wanted to do it. And there is a guy that does programs for walk run, and it's okay. It's okay to walk. Yeah.
See,
So
that's tough, because as a competitor, it's like, no, we don't take any prisoners here. If I'm not running, then I may as well not be moving. You know,
right.
So that sense of dedication to the task and who you are and what you're doing is one of those things that you're like, oh, well, I can't take that rest. Now, I know that you think you've had similar stories like that as well, haven't you? Where actually rest, what are you talking about?
Yeah, so, obviously we're lifting pretty heavy weights. I only train 4 times a week. So when I say only, that's more than enough for the style of training that I do. But it is very important to take that rest and to listen to your body. If there's a niggle, but you think, I'm just going to push past that, then you don't know what that kind of impact will have on the rest of your preparation. If that niggle turns into something more serious, and instead of having just the 1 or 2 days off, then you're having 2, 3, 4 weeks off. Now that's the impact that, a comp prep, if you're prepping for a comp, having those weeks off is what's going to impact that preparation, when just before you could have had, 1 or 2 days off, and it's not really going to impact it at all, and, you bounce back. So
when you, so one of the things that Lifeline Darling Downs is being, we're participating in very soon is the push-up challenge. And the slogan for the push-up challenge is to push for better. And it's really this conversation around mental health and also suicide awareness and all that kind of gear, just to, I guess, together we can do better in this area. But sometimes people adopt this idea that actually you just got to push through, and I think that there is a point to that. So even when we're talking about running the marathon and what have you, is actually you do got to push through. Sometimes that's just life. That's the way it happens, is you've just got to get that mental resilience and toughness about you and push through the issue and
Matt,
get to the other side. But yep.
Is that making you better?
No, but this is the thing, is that sometimes you've actually got to push past that mentality, isn't it? Where
why do you want to be better?
Right. And
what is better though? So I think you have got a point there. There's a time and a place to push, right? And as a competitor, you know when to push. And for me, I guess I can draw back on, if I'm in training or even in a competition and I go to lift a weight and something's not right, and if you keep pushing, then something bad's going to happen. And that's when you need to pull back and, avoid the situation in saying sort of avoid the injury or avoid, being out for months on end. And I think as an athlete, because you know your body so well, you know what you can push through and what you can't. And I think it's certainly for me, for an example, I guess, I was in training one day and I went to lift a weight and I got about halfway up and something gave, but I put it back down instead of pushing through. Normally I do. Normally I'm like, yeah, it's okay, it's fine. But that day was different. And I stopped. I had a bit of a week off from a bit of a strain I had in one of my muscles, and then I was back at it the next week rather than, having longer off.
Yeah. But see, that really requires you to know yourself, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Have an understanding of yourself and listen to the signs and the symptoms that are coming through what you're doing to know when to pull back. And I think that's what you were saying then just before as well. Part of what you're saying is, well, actually just pushing through for quote unquote better is not necessarily the right thing to do for yourself.
Well, it's not, but I suppose in Bianca's situation, she's more about strength, whereas in running or marathons, it's more about, the speed and the running. So the reason why they've got into the running, etc., could be a totally different reason why Bianca's into powerlifting, and it nearly normally comes down to the body size and, they want to lose weight and things like that. But the biggest thing is they don't want that injury because they will lose fitness, whereas you'll lose strength.
Yes.
Well, we will lose fitness, and that's the biggest. Please don't have an injury because you lose fitness. But it is what it is, and I think that's where you have to come back home and say, well, it is what it is, and I'll handle that.
Yeah, I hear that. I know that for me, one of the things that I really struggle with in life in general is making sure that I've only got so much on the plate as what can be handled reasonably. I'm just notorious for putting more on the plate than what I really need to or what I should be. So it's the same comes with pizza. Pizza comes out. I'll always want to have at least 2 more pieces than what I really ought to, but it takes all of my willpower to say no. I'm not going to do that because I just don't need that. That's not right for me or whatever. But it's the same for just stuff in life as well, and having to juggle things. But I think this is where when we come back to this idea of mental resilience and mental well-being. People talk about balance, and I don't know if balance is the right word in life. I don't know about you two, whether you think that that's the right word or the right way to say it, but it is kind of about this idea of having a sense of balance in what you're doing within life, and I'm sure that has echoes also in sporting, in both your sporting fields.
Yeah, I think so. For me, part of being well and being mentally prepared for everything is having that support network. And that support network for me is, relationships, family, friends, my husband, etc. So I think definitely making time for the people who make time for you is important to me. So, my friends and my family understand that, I spend a lot of time at the gym, but it's important to me. But then it kind of draws back on the whole preparation for me as well. Like, I'm talking, minutes, seconds are very valuable to me. Time is commodity for me, and I don't care if it's 1 second, 3 seconds, 4 hours, 4 minutes, whatever it is, like that's valuable. So I want to be as prepared as possible. So if I've got an extra spare 4 minutes in the day, I can message my nana, I can message my mum, I can, give my friend a bit of a call, say, hey, how you going? In 4 minutes, and that's okay for me. We don't see a great deal of each other, but that extra 4 minutes is a big deal to me.
In what way does that help you stay grounded? Because it feels like it is actually reaching out and texting and being in touch with your family and friends. That actually helps you as much as it tells them that you love them. Yeah,
so I'm a big talker. So when it comes to my mental health, I have to talk. It's very important to me. So being able to keep relationships with family and friends, not necessarily, not talking to them for weeks, days on end, but just making sure that they know I'm still around and I'm still alive and kicking. So making sure that they know I have the time for them so that when I need them, they're there for me.
Absolutely. Margie, you with your, as an emergency ward nurse, that's a pretty high pressure environment. And then you put yourself into these other fairly stressful sort of environments with running and what have you. I'm sure that you've got a routine or something that you do as well that helps you stay grounded and kind of connected to reality and feeling quote unquote normal.
Normal. Yeah, I do, but unlike Bianca, I am able to say, well, I won't do that today, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'm not I can multitask, but I don't choose to multitask my days. So you hit the nail on the head when you said just put one thing on your plate. Yeah. And that I think is really important with mental resilience, is not to try and multitask because you're going to be disappointed for sure. Yeah.
How often have you seen runners, either new or experienced, just take on too much?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah. What's the results that you see when
injured?
Yeah, right. Right. And what is that normally? Is that when they're running too many times in the week or running too far or trying to push themselves too fast?
Well, overtraining, not listening to their body, but knowing that they have the ability and just keep going.
Yeah. And I think that that's one of the things when we look at, especially when we start talking about mental health and well-being, and we look at some of the research and there's a whole range of great websites that you can go to, and anybody just has to type in mental health, and there's a raft of really interesting places to go to get some great statistics and what have you. But one of the things that we often hear spoken about is this idea of really trying to find that sense of who you are and not taking on more than what you ought to be doing. That realistically, we've just got to take one step at a time. And I love what you said before, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. That often one of the keys to good mental health is just getting consistency in life. You know, making sure that we've got as much consistency as possible. Yes, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be peaks, there's going to be valleys that we have to run through and walk through. But realistically, it's trying to just keep things as even as possible, so that when we hit those high times or those low times, we've got some even ground to come back to. And I think that's probably really quite pertinent when we start talking about running and marathons. I'm sure that, you know, when you're running a marathon, running on flat ground, actually probably feels quite good. But the ups and downs could be a bit of a challenge, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But you train accordingly.
Yeah.
If you're sensible.
Yeah. So it's that sense of preparation and being ready to take on the challenges that we need really to have that resilience is actually one of the things I find people often talk to me about is, you know, I'm stressed and I've got to get rid of this stress in my life. And I'm not sure that that's always... I think when people have got a mental illness, like a diagnosed mental illness, and they need to be on a plan and have a whole range of stresses taken out of their life, that's really important. But in general, something that I think is important for us is to actually experience little bits of stress, because stress is not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually normal to have stress about, you know, oh gosh, you know, I'm going to be late for a birthday party, you know, and I've got to get there or whatever. And then people can get a bit stressed about that. So I think that what we need to be doing is allowing for that type of thing to be a part of our life, and not trying to avoid those hard moments at all, but actually leaning into them and embracing them. Yes.
I just want to draw back on earlier about not taking on too much. And this is a bit of a sort of a feather in my cap here. I'm a bit proud of myself for this. But ever since I was about 18, I've had about 3 jobs. And it's just in the last 6 months that I've realised that trying to, you know, become a top-level athlete and work, you know, your own business and work for someone else and then, you know, have all that around you. Yeah, the money's great, but the happiness just isn't
at a
there.
cost.
Oh, exactly, Margie. And it took its toll, and it took a lot. But I dropped one of those jobs, and now I only have 2. So I'm just very pleased with myself. So
Margie's proud of you. Margie's proud of you for just dropping things and letting it go.
Well, the ability to adapt, isn't it? If you can't adapt, it is going to affect your life.
Oh, 100%. You know, and I'm so much happier now with less money in the bank than I was with more money in the bank. I couldn't do anything with it. I was constantly working, you know, and obviously trying to fulfill my sporting dreams as well. It just, you know, it was 13, 14-hour days. It was insane. So I just wanted to pipe up and
but you do have the personality to be driven. You're a driver.
I am a driver, yeah, for sure. I think I get that from my mother.
Thanks, Mum.
Thanks, Mum. Yeah, she'll listen to this.
Shout
later.
out to Mum. That's brilliant. What about you, Margie? Where do you get your drive from?
Probably a good question. I'm not too sure. I suppose I took up the running because of my dad, and my dad has passed, so that keeps me going. I think it's because I really like it. I really love it. Yeah. And I get a bit of a kick out of, you know, people going, are you that girl that runs all around Toowoomba? Or, you know, you're that park run lady. I have to give park run
the park run lady.
Here, yeah. You're that park run lady. So I suppose you hit the nail on the head when you said something about aspiration. And I think that's probably the most common thing that is said. You're such an aspiration or an inspiration. Not too sure, yeah. And I think that's good to hear because really I'm a basic runner. I'm a lady who runs marathons. So I'm not an Olympian athlete like Bianca, and I don't have that recognition, but I have a normal recognition, if that's probably a good word or a bad word. Yeah. So I'm just an average Joe Blow who runs, but it's nice to see people thinking, well, gee, you know, maybe I could do that, or wow, I can do that.
I really like the way that you talk about this idea that you're a person who runs, you're a woman who runs. I'm not a marathon runner. Explain to me a little bit about why that's so important that you made such a distinction on that particular point.
Because I am who I am first, and then I've developed my running ability and my running love. So at the end of the day, I don't introduce myself as a marathon runner, Margaret. I'm Margaret who runs marathons. And I think it's really important.
We can get tied up a little bit sometimes, can't we, in what we do, and that's kind of our identity. What I do is my identity, you know. Powerlifting, that's me. Maybe it's not. It's not powerlifting's not you. It's just something you do.
No, I have to agree with Margie there. You know, the girl who lifts weights, you know, around town. You know, that's who people know you as. And it is, you can get lost in that, particularly with, you know, being so young and social media being such a big thing as well. And it's actually nice to talk about it, and you know, it's not every day you kind of just say, oh, hang on a minute, no, I am just Bianca, or I am just Margie. I'm not, you know, Bianca who lifts weights. You know, we actually have a personality behind what we do as well, and it's actually a lot more. I think a lot more people would be able to understand it, you know, as we're sort of unveiling kind of, you know, we are real people. It's like, you know, you see a teacher out at the shops, you think, oh my gosh, they actually go shopping, you know, like we are real people too, you know, so it's good to be able to chat about it. Absolutely.
I've heard of stories of children diving behind you know, displays when their teachers come, because I don't want to discuss anything with those teachers, which you know, is a pretty funny thing if you imagine that, children diving underneath desks and tables so that they can get away from their teachers in the shop. But you're right, there's more to life than just those things. I do want to come back to a little bit connected to your training and what have you. I just wonder, with training and having to have so many things on the boil, in your own journey and battles with self-doubt and stress and anxiety, I wonder if you've got some stories that you can share on that and help us understand a little bit about some of the things that you've had to work through as well.
Yeah, so just recently actually. and
Recent's good.
Recent is good, yeah, a couple of weeks ago. So, you know, I headed into the gym and, you know, started warming up and I think I got my first set. It was really heavy. It was really hard, really heavy. And in my head, I was like, oh, man, I got 4 more sets of this. Like, I don't know. Like, and then I just lost it. I lost it. I'm in the middle of the gym, bawling my eyes out. And my husband's like, no, it's okay. You'll be able to pull it together. You'll get through this. But it was too far gone for me in my mind. You know, like you said earlier, it's not just being strong. It's being able to, you know, be strong through here, you know, to push past the fact of the weights being heavy, and to lift it. So, and I knew what I had to do. I knew that day wasn't my day. There was no point in, you know, flogging a dead horse, I guess they call it. So I went home, I regathered, and I actually went back the next day. I didn't lift the weights I was supposed to lift, but that's okay because I still moved through my program. And like Margie said, you turned up. You know, I turned up, I did it. So, and for me, that win was so much better than being able to sort of even get through my training session like I would normally. You know, for me to look back on that and go, you know what, it's okay, I didn't do it, but I pulled myself together the next day and I got it done. So for me, in my head, I felt much, much better, you know, getting through it like that than I would have if I'd have just gone, did my session like I normally would, and yeah, didn't have that issue.
Yeah, and I really, that's really interesting. Can you look back at that day and think, well, this was the trigger? Can you define for yourself what kind of took you to that place where you just broke down and you couldn't do it when you normally would be able to?
Yeah, like I always call it the straw that broke the camel's back, and it could be my husband breaking a plate in the washing up. You know, it's not exactly that moment.
So it's mostly your husband, is that what it is?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
He'll watch this later. He'll listen to it. No, but it's always the straw that breaks the camel's back, and it's not necessarily that thing that's a trigger. You know, and I can, you know, look back and pull together everything that has brought me to that moment. And that's something I've been able to learn over the years, not through myself. I've been able to muster together the support I've needed. You know, I see psychologists. I seek out help when I need to seek out help, which is really important. So yeah, I knew why.
Yeah.
I knew why we were there. Yeah.
Yeah, you need people to help you out, and that does remind me about what you were saying earlier, Margie, about this idea that you've got your trainer, not someone local, someone from New York, that is your trainer, and this is a person that helps you out. What kind of role does a person like that play in your preparation and in your competition and what you do as well?
I think they play a big role, but at the end of the day, it comes back to you. Like, you know, you have to do it. And as I said earlier, I'm a brilliant student, an excellent student. But come to the race day, it will be a different story. But unlike Bianca, I suppose, her program is she must lift that weight, etc., and she really wants to do that on that day. My program is a 3-month program. You're a 4-year Olympic program, you know, though you have smaller programs. So mine is 3 months. Okay, I didn't achieve it, so the next program, which comes very shortly after that, you'll have another go. And you may not achieve. I mean, it's taken me a couple of years to do a personal best at a half marathon since my last personal best. And look, you would have thought I was into the Tokyo Olympics at the Gold Coast when I did it a couple of weeks ago. And it was just an amazing feeling. And that will get you going and keep you going for a little while. But it is about that, but it's not about that.
How did you learn to deal with the disappointment that comes with not hitting the goal or the PB? Because it's surely that...
Because after 24 hours, no one remembers what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true. That's very true. Those are wise words right there.
They just knew that you did it, not necessarily didn't achieve but your time, but they knew you did it, so they will give you that accolade. But yourself, you realise that after a day or two, it doesn't really matter. Move on. Life's short.
Yep. I wonder, Margie, if you've got maybe, you know, a couple of takeaways for people, you know, some top tips, if you will, about mental resilience and keeping that strong mental well-being happening in people's lives. What would it be for you to give your top tips? What would you say are the things that matter the most?
Enjoyment and happiness in what you're doing, and not to beat yourself up if you don't achieve on that day or that race, because there'll always be another one. But remember, you got to the start line, and that's the biggest achievement. And don't doubt yourself. You know, be proud of what you do. Don't doubt yourself. But also, if you put too much on your plate, expect that you may not achieve. So just, you know, one job at a time, and enjoy it, really. Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, just try and make sure that you're doing something that you can enjoy.
Yeah. Well, the consistency of doing your program and enjoying it sort of marries into each. But from a mental health point of view, maybe you want to set yourself a challenge, but a achievable challenge.
Yeah.
You know, it might be just to walk a little bit, like you're having your push-up challenge. Well, I would be no good at that. I'd want to walk a K challenge.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And just adding on to what Margie said about the little things and tips and stuff too, I want to share with you guys a little thing that works really well for me. I love lists, right? So I'll write a list, and on top of that list will be things that I do religiously. Feed the dog, make the bed, you know, those sorts of things. Obviously on that list there's, you know, bigger things, you know, go out, do the shopping, training, you know, all that. I'll write everything down. And I'll start, with the dogs, feed the dogs, make the bed, tick, tick. And it all sort of starts to be a domino effect. And then you're like, oh, look at these ticks. And then what's the next one? Oh, yeah, I could do that. Tick, tick, So for me, being productive, I like to be busy, as you probably already gathered.
Touch.
Yeah. So I definitely love that list, the whole list thing. And I think I was chatting with one of my clients about it the other day, and she said she loved it too. So I think celebrating those small things, you're always going to feed the dogs, right? You're always going to make your bed, and just celebrating those tiny little things. And then all of a sudden it's like a snowball effect. And then lo and behold, you've done, half a day's of chores and it's only 9 o'clock, I don't know what your days are like, but yeah. So I just like that little tip. I just want to share with everyone.
That is brilliant. I love it. One of the things for me as we're, listening to you both talk, that to achieve big things and to kick big goals and have successes, if you want to put it that way, and I'm sure people look at you and they say, oh, there's a lot of success there. It's left foot, right foot. It's just doing the little things that matter, like feeding the dog and what have you, just the basic stuff. Do all of that and just be as consistent as you can with that. And then, bottom line is, turn up.
Yeah.
Just don't hide away, turn up. And coming back to what you said, it reminds me of Dory from Finding Nemo. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep going. Whatever happens, just keep going. And even if it means that, what it means is I pull back a bit, I don't lift quite as much this week, but I just keep going. Taking a break doesn't mean stopping. Yeah. Just do a little bit less and take the pressure off, do one thing instead of 10, and make sure that you're enjoying the journey as you go.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really, really cool. And I think that they are some really amazing keys for mental resilience and developing mental well-being. And it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with the two of you about your story and to hear more about how your sporting world has influenced just your everyday living. And I'm sure that there's just so many more things that we could be talking about, and maybe at another time we can get you back in to talk more about marathon running and actually dive into a little bit of what it looks like to turn up, in Chicago or New York or wherever and actually, run those things, and also what it looks like to lift 150 kilos off the floor and over your head, which I don't think
no, I don't lift it over my head. No.
That's not
My nana said to me, she looked at a deadlift one day, she said, oh, deadlift, that's just where you pick it up, right? I said, yeah. She goes, oh, that's pretty easy.
Well, how hard's that?
That's the hardest one of the lot. Bless her.
We need to learn more about this journey that you've both been on. But for today, thank you very much to our guests. It's been incredible to have you. And of course, thank you to everybody listening. And we encourage you that if you are struggling with anything in your mental health, if you're needing to talk to someone, reach out. People are there to help you when you need them. You can call Lifeline on 13 11 14 24/7, and people are there, qualified counsellors are there to help you no matter what's going on. But again, just make sure that you reach out, you're talking to someone. We're here for you.
Today you have been listening to a podcast, Unleash the Beast, a conversation about mental health. Lifeline, Darling Downs and Southwest Queensland's contribution to the national conversation. If today has raised any issues with you, you do know that Lifeline is always there for you. 13 11 14, call anytime. Today's podcast has proudly been brought to you by the David McTaggart Family Foundation.